Hey, on this episode today, you're gonna want to listen to it. We have Annette Franz on here. She's actually a customer experience specialist. She just finished writing Built to Win, the book. She also worked at JD Power and Associates. Some of you people might remember JD Power and Associates. They're a big company that hands out awards to a lot of very big, successful companies in the world. She's transforming your customer experience from the inside out. Very big on culture, and she said something very interesting during our interview. Vision without execution is a hallucination. Anyways, tune in. Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have Annette Franz. She's from Southern California. She's written a few books, and why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I am a founder and CEO of CX Journey Inc. It's a customer experience consultancy. I'm a author, as you mentioned, two books, a keynote speaker. And I've been in this customer experience profession for the last 30 years. I started my career at JD Power and Associates back in the early 90s and have just really had some interesting years watching this thing called customer experience evolve into what it is today.
JD Power and Associates. Yeah, a lot of companies would get the awards from those companies over the years.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I grew up in a Ford family. My dad and his brother worked for Ford my dad worked for Ford for 44 years. He retired in the late 90s. And yeah, so those were some interesting conversations around the dinner table because as Ford folks in the early years were not fans of JD Power and Associates.
They were not.
No, they were not. There was this, whole notion that or thought process that the rankings were bought and paid for by the Japanese automakers. So yeah, so that was a little bit of
Oh,
a contentious time, definitely. But that is not the case. Having worked there for 5 years, and it's truly market research, and everybody still gets those. A lot of folks still get those surveys today from JD Power. So
oh, well, that's a good thing then, right? Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
because you don't like. I do find that some of I get emails all the time saying you've won Canada's best automotive business award, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like, how did I win? I'm just some little small business that's selling dash cameras to cars. And then you click on it and it's like for $1,000, you get added to our website and you get this. It's like, oh, okay. So what is
yeah.
this? What does this truly mean, right?
I get those all the time too. And they're like, for woman of the year. And I'm like, what am I woman of the year for? And same thing, I open the email and it's like, well, for $3,000, we will list you in our, and I'm like,
Oh,
I get them like daily. I get them daily.
yeah. So you started this whole customer experience journey. And I mean, obviously starting at JD Power and Associates has gotten you on that track.
Yeah.
And you've written books. So, I saw the other day on LinkedIn you had a post all about culture. So, and I know there's a little bit of back and forth. I even responded on it as well because a lot of people,
Yep.
somebody posted something about, one bad manager in your whole company causes, I think he said something about toxic culture or something like that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was kind of confused as to that, because I don't think one bad manager means that you have a toxic culture.
I think so either. Somehow that person slipped through the cracks in the hiring process, I think is really what happened there. But you know what? One of the things that I see happen a lot is that, and I think I may have even mentioned it in this post, is that sometimes we think that being a manager is automatically the career path, the career goal for everybody as they go from individual contributor and kind of go up that, advance the ladder, just say, well, going up the ladder in their career. And, being a manager is not always the end goal for a lot of people. Total sidebar, but this was an interesting article that I read the other day. I don't know if you saw this. The gentleman who had worked for this company for 84 years. It was I want to say it was in the UK. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's where it was. But the interesting thing is he said he never wanted to be a manager. He was in sales, and that was his thing. He liked what he did, and becoming a manager and advancing through the company was never his goal. And I think I think as we think about our employees and we think about that career pathing, we think automatically everybody wants to be a manager, and we put them in that place when they shouldn't be. And so I think we get some folks in those positions that probably shouldn't be in that position at all.
Yeah, no, I've talked about this before on the podcast where a lot of times somebody's the top salesperson. So they automatically go, you're the top salesperson.
Yeah.
And then they throw you into this manager role and you're supposed to lead your people. But if you're
Yeah.
someone who just naturally enjoys sales, a lot of times you're like, oh, so I get more money now. Awesome. And you're excited about that, but you're not really understanding the role. And the main role is when you transform into that manager or leader, you now have to train everybody to do what you've been doing.
Right.
And not everybody's good at
Train
doing
them
that,
and
right?
lead them. Yeah. Train them and lead them to success. And that's not a skill that everybody has, right?
Yes, that's 100%. So in your customer, so what is it that you do when you publicly speak about customer experience? What are some of the topics you like to talk about?
Yeah, I like, it's interesting. So as a matter of fact, I have a speaking engagement next week, and the topic of that one is transforming the customer experience from the inside out. And that one is all about culture, leadership, and the employee experience. So I talk a lot about that. My first book was around understanding, which is, all about listening to your customers, and that's, surveys and data and those kinds of things, feedback and data. What I call characterize is about developing the personas to really understand who your customers are and why they buy and what they buy, needs, pain points, problems they're trying to solve. And then the third thing is empathize, which is about journey mapping, walking in their shoes with them to really understand the experience that they're having. So those are just some of the things that I talk about. Over 30 years, I've accumulated quite the set of things that I can talk about and experiences that I can share, things that have worked and haven't worked with clients and those kinds of things. But those are the kinds of things I like to talk about, especially now with the new book. I like to talk about culture and the impact of culture on the business and the outcomes if we have a great culture. So
Yeah, like a lot of people really don't seem to understand that if you don't set like a proper mission, vision, and values for your team, and you don't hire based on those values, you're basically causing your own problems, right? Because people need to
exactly.
buy into your vision, right? And the other thing is you actually have to pursue your vision. So if you say, I'm going to have 50 stores in the next 5 years, and we're 4 years down the road and you still have one,
Right.
well, I don't think those people are sticking around that were following your vision,
No.
right? Because
No.
you're not acting on it, right?
Exactly. What is that quote? I forget how it goes. Vision without execution is a hallucination or something like that. I probably just messed
I
it
just
up,
haven't
but
heard
it's
that,
something
but
along
you know
those
what?
lines.
You just made that up.
I don't think I made it up. Maybe I mixed two different quotes, but it's something like that.
But it is the truth. Like part of the stuff that we do talk about in the networking group I'm in is they were talking about a lot about vision. If you don't act on it, you keep telling your employees, hey, you know what? I vision you hiring you to be a leader of such and such this. And then it's 2-3 years down the road. If you haven't shown any of the steps that you're even making motions towards it, they're not going to stick around. And that affects your culture because now this person who came there bought into your vision of what you want to do. And now nothing's changed. So then what happens is they get negative. And then if you have other employees, it trickles down negative, right? So, when that guy was making that post about how having one negative manager, I always say, well, why is that manager negative? Is that manager negative because of something else from above where they said, hey, you're going to get this? Because I've been in that position where I'm told you're going to be in such and such position probably in a year, and it's 2 years down the road and you're still going, is this ever happening? Is this happening?
Right.
And then now you start getting kind of like sour, and then someone else asks you for more money who's one of your people, and you're like, well, you're not going to get more money because I'm not getting more money. And then it turns into this ripple, right?
Yeah.
And then
absolutely
they look at you like you're a negative manager. Well, but why did that happen? Because that person wasn't negative for so long.
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, you have to go back to the root cause, and you're absolutely right. Somebody somewhere down the line brought them in, and it is the vision, the values, the purpose, the mission, all those things that do attract employees or potential employees to an employer. And if you don't deliver on that, especially in startups, I've been in a lot of startups, and that vision is so important. And if we get a year or two down the road and we haven't done anything toward that. I worked for a company years ago where that was the case, and I was on the leadership team, and I went to the CEO and I said, "What is our vision at this point? What is our vision?" And he couldn't articulate it. He actually could not articulate what the vision was, and that was my sort of aha moment. Is like, okay, well, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. And I've been there a year already, and brought on as, again, here's where we're headed. But a year down the road, I was like, where are we headed? So it is so important. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, so I worked for Best Buy for 4.5 years, many years ago, 2002 to 2006. Okay.
Okay.
And I still remember their mission statement. I still remember their vision. I still remember all their values
That's
because
awesome.
they ingrained it in my head. I can't get it out. And when I try and write my own mission statement, I'll find myself starting to write like the Best Buy one. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
wait, it needs to be unique. It needs to be mine. Right. But that's the thing. If you're a
Exactly.
company
Yeah.
that works so hard on it, like it's the point where, well, I was actually just going to show you something, but there's notifications like crazy on my phone. And I was going to show you that my values are actually on my screensaver of my phone,
Oh, wow.
right? Because I
Nice.
have them so they're in my face so that I always remember what my values are, right?
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
right, because I want to make sure to do that. My vision has been changing almost daily over the last month because I'm trying to finalize my vision before I start
Mm,
hiring and onboarding and bringing people into the company that we're growing right now.
yeah. Yep. That makes sense. That makes sense. You got to have that nailed down. It is something that's going to attract people to your business. So absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people want to come because they want to be part of something. They want to have a purpose. They want to have something, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Good. Well, good for you. It sounds like you're on the right track. So
what when you look around at the world today, what has stood out to you as the biggest change in how we interact as customers?
I think probably the biggest thing today is personalization and how companies are using data, whatever that data is, whether it's the feedback or it's what I call the breadcrumbs of data that we leave behind as we interact or transact with a brand, right? Or it's a combination of those things. I think that personalization is a piece that we're obviously seeing a lot more of today than we saw years ago. Not everybody's doing it and not everybody's getting it right because some of it is still creepy or just overly, it's not where it should be, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely something, and it's something that customers want. It's something that they expect today. And if it's not done right, it can be a detractor, and so we have to be really careful with that. But I think that's a huge thing that has changed and continues to change as we move forward in the coming years as well. People are going to want more of that, and not just personalization, but that hyper personalization, right? Sort of that real time, adapting in real time to where I am and how I'm purchasing or searching or interacting, whatever it is that I'm doing. Always knowing where I am in that journey and being able to adapt the experience to me because of who I am and where I am in the journey. So that's huge. Some companies, like I said, some companies are doing that and they're getting it right. Some of them are doing it and it's failing poorly, but and others are just not even doing it yet. They're just not there. They are just not there yet. So
Yeah, that personalization thing, like, are you referring to, say, you go to Amazon and they do the whole people also bought this, that bought this, like that kind of personalization journey you're talking, or?
yeah, that's one piece of it. That's a very simplistic, personalization, and that's been around for years. And others do that as well. And it's also not just, hey, the email is addressed to me. Hey, Annette, here's our latest specials or whatever. It's, hey, Annette, we saw that you shopped, or searched this, or you had this in your shopping cart, or put this on your wish list. Here are some other items that are similar to that. We're having a sale on this today. Those kinds of things that start to really just get more to who I am and how I shop, where I shop, or whatever it is, however I'm interacting.
So when we talk about personalization, I'm actually just going to ask a question because I'm very curious your thoughts on this. When you get like those CRM emails that you can tell 100%, they literally, you could tell like your name is highlighted. If you have a website, your website's highlighted. Do you think that's personalized, or do you think that's just somebody doing their marketing and they really have no interest? They're just hoping to, get some feelers, find out if they can do some business with you.
Yeah, I think I think it's the latter, right? And I also think if they are trying to personalize, they're doing it poorly, right? If you're gonna personalize a message to me like that, where you actually want to do business with me, then take the time to just write, I don't want to say handwrite, but type the email and take some time to look at who am I, what's my business. I get that all the time. I get that on LinkedIn, for example, all the time, where people just reach out to me and they'll say, hey, we publish books. Do you want to publish a book with us? It's like, if you even took like 2 seconds just to go to my LinkedIn profile, you would see, first of all, at the top of my profile are images of my 2 books. And if you even scroll down just a little bit more and you do put in a little bit more effort, you would see, my profile says, my first book is this, my second book is this. It's so you have to make the effort. You can't just, I'm going to call it spam. You can't just spam everybody with the same message and hope that it's going to stick somewhere, because it turns people off.
You know what? I 100% agree with you, because this happens to me quite a bit. I'll be looking, I'll get a message like on LinkedIn saying, Benjamin, we're looking to help you with your social media marketing. We're wondering how we get a hold of you. And I'm going, my email address is on there. I guess you're messaging me. You can see that I have safedrivesolutions.ca. There's email, there's phone number, there's everything. And it's going, okay, this is very strange, but that's fine. But, I guess they're trying to make an effort, but at the same time, it's like they haven't really looked. They haven't made any effort. And
like that turns people off, right? And you go, okay, well, you haven't even made any efforts.
LinkedIn, there's a lot of information on people's profiles, right? Like we've basically made ourselves available,
Right.
I had someone message me, I think 2 months ago, saying, are you looking to start a podcast? And I was like, looking?
Yes, I am.
I got like 40 episodes done, like I'm not looking. I'm actively going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that I think LinkedIn is sort of an exaggeration of what we're talking about when you go out into like emails that we get as consumers from businesses, but it's amplifies what some of these businesses are doing, right? It is sort of like that. Hey, you didn't even take a minute to look at, I've purchased from you 3 times. You didn't even take a second to look at what I've bought from you. And that's why are you recommending that I buy the same thing again? I had somebody give the example about a year ago. I was doing a webinar with them, and they basically said, I'm a customer of this one bank. I have this credit card, and they email me and they snail mail me brochures and literature and everything about this exact card that I already have. How do you do that? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And for me as the customer, she was like, hey, you don't know me. You don't know me, and you haven't taken the time to know me. So I'm frustrated, And so those are the kinds of bad behaviors that we see when it comes to this attempt at personalization. So
yeah, there's definitely some interesting fails.
Yes, definitely. We could talk about those all day, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm kind of curious, how did your customer experience journey? Because you worked at JD Power and Associates. So what kind of got you to write the books? Was it like you went to a whole bunch of places and you just noticed you just weren't really getting good customer service? You had some bad experiences maybe as an employee? What kind of fueled you to go, I need to write this book. I need to write two books now, right? Two books now, right?
Right. Great question. Because before I wrote my first book, well, I had started writing my blog back in 2011, and everybody was like, just take what you're writing and put it in a book, and because I was publishing like twice a week, and that's not happening anymore, but twice a week, and just had a ton of content out there. And I spoke to a woman actually in Australia, and she had been working with an imprint of a publishing company, and she said, come write a book, let's do this, and I'll help you, blah blah blah. And I said, why does the world need another customer experience book, right? There's so many of them out there. And she said, well, because it's yours. It's your words, it's your experience, it's how you do things in your thought process, right? And I said, okay, that's fair. So it took me about 5 years after that for me to write the first one. But I think a big part of it was there's customer experience is still a very new thing, right? And the discipline and the profession itself are still very new. We're getting a lot of new people coming into this profession who have no idea what it means to be a customer experience professional and what they need to do from day one. And so that was the thing that sort of drove me to write both books, right? The second one, Built to Win, this last one that I just released about 6 weeks ago, this one was sort of it was written to inspire leaders to think differently about what it means to develop a customer-centric culture. So this book was written especially for the leadership team to really understand what it means to be customer-centric. Because I kept hearing people say, oh, well, we've got customer-centric people, we've got customer-centric messages, we've got customer-centric websites. And it's like, well, customer-centric really runs through the veins of the organization, kind of like you were saying about Best Buy. It's ingrained in what you do and how you do things. It's not just one person or one, message or anything like that. It's what you do every day, day in and day out, and how you do it. And so I thought, I just want to get that message out there and get people to think differently about what it means to be customer-centric and what it entails. And, the book has the 10 principles, the 10 foundational principles. It sounds like a lot, but it's not something that's easy. I mean, if you want to shift the business and do things differently, you gotta do the work, and you have to understand what that work entails.
Yeah, no. So it sounds kind of similar. So for me, when I started this podcast, what happened was, as I said, I want to start a podcast. That was my goal. By the end of 2021, I want to start a podcast. So I get on the phone with my buddy Chris. He's like, dude, you go to Anchor, you do this, blah, 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 and you're doing a podcast. I got a phone with him off the Zoom. I recorded my first thing. The next day, I had 12 listens in like a day. And I was like, oh, cool. 12 people listened. And I'm all excited.
Right?
It had nothing to do with what my topic was actually going to be. My original topic was going to be all about like aftermarket automotive accessories and other business owners that are in the aftermarket automotive space, right? That's originally what I thought I would do. But what happened was I talked for 12, I think it was like 12 minutes is my first episode that's on there, about how Starbucks, when you go into Starbucks, have you noticed that a lot of times they're not even asking your name anymore? You used to always go in there and they go, and your name is? And they'd say, Ben. And then you go over to the counter and they go, Ben. They would say, hey, Ben, we're working on your caramel macchiato, getting it ready for you. How's your day? Right. And then they tell you, and your caramel macchiato is ready for you, Ben. Right. Well, guess what? The pandemic, pushed those personalization disappeared on, I go to like Starbucks now, and I would say 1 out of 5 actually operate with that whole thing where when they start your coffee, they start talking to you, right, to find out who you are. And I would say 3 out of 5 are actually asking your name. So I talked about that. And honestly, still to this day, I go to places and there's still a few Starbucks that don't ask your name anymore.
Really? So, I haven't been in a while. So I wonder why they do that or don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think what happened is, with the pandemic, they shut down a lot of the stores, and then a lot of those employees went and pursued new careers. And then as they brought and hired new people on, a lot of people were scared about close contact. So then I think the training wasn't there. So now you have a lot of these people there that aren't part of the original culture and weren't hired to be part of the original culture because they just needed bodies to keep the business going. Right. It's not a shot to Starbucks. I mean, but it's, unfortunately, I talked about that. Next thing you know, I have a whole bunch of people reaching out to me and I'm going, okay, I'm passionate about this. This is what I need to talk about is customer experience. Right. And then, and I've also, because of this journey, I've been pushing to just keep changing and learning and getting better and better and better at what I provide to my customers.
Yeah. I loved it. We could have a whole conversation about what you just said about this whole notion of how the experience changed, and not necessarily to the better during the pandemic, because some things got better, right? This whole digital transformation and convenient and contact, all those kinds of things, right? But from the employee perspective and the things that are happening because of training, to your point, people, it wasn't, there was that thing, those things weren't happening in person, or it was just sort of like half-assed because we got to get it done and we got to get it done quickly because we got to get you on the floor and get you going, kind of thing. Or, just the people aren't the right people and they're just hiring people just to have warm bodies in the stores. And even just this morning on LinkedIn, I saw 3 stories from 3 different people about how bad the experience was because of a shortage of staff. That the managers were claiming that, oh, we're so busy, we're so busy, but shortage of staff, people forgetting to charge people for things, or didn't bring drinks. We went out last week with Cinco de Mayo, right? We went out for Cinco de Mayo. Our drinks came 10 minutes after our appetizers did. When does that ever happen? Usually the drinks come like pretty much right away, and then the appetizers take 20 minutes, but the appetizers came in 20 minutes and the drinks came like 35 minutes or 30 minutes. And it was like, what is going on here? But, and my son's 20, he works at a restaurant. They, over the weekend, they shut down early. They don't have enough people. They could, so it just is that this whole thing is just exacerbated and just shows the impact of the employee experience on the customer, and how important employees are to the customer experience, how important that training is, as you mentioned, to the customer experience. Like, things have just gone awry here in the last several months.
Yeah, it's pretty bad because, even me, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, which we really don't eat out much anymore anyways, but if we do, I look at current Google reviews in the last month or two, because a lot of these businesses are not running the same way they were a year, 2, 3 years ago. And we went to a place in Seattle based on the hotel recommended that we go to there. And we paid $58 American for a pizza and a side Caesar salad. Okay.
Welcome to America.
But no, I mean, that's a $25 meal up here in Canada. And that's like, we're talking $58 US. So that's about $80 Canadian. On top of that, we went to the place. They said, you can sit here. And then when we got to the table, they go, yeah, use your phone to scan the QR code. So we scan a QR code. We have to order off the QR code. You have to order your waters off the QR code.
Oh my gosh.
Our waters came out 15 minutes later when the guy finally brought it to the table. And I mean, the place wasn't busy, right? And the guy's not in any kind of uniform. He's just wearing like a hoodie. So I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Not obviously part of the team there or whatever. And then the lady comes out and starts giving him crap in front of us that he brought the waters out. And I'm going, well, that's wrong. You don't reprimand. You reprimand in private, not in front of us. And then the pizza comes out like 5 minutes later. And we're going,
oh, wow.
Holy, the pizza was good, but I mean, it wasn't $58 good.
Right? Wow.
But this is all things that are changing. And part of me goes, should I just be happy that they showed up because we got food? Or should I be going, wow, the customer experience has really fallen off at the restaurants? Like, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. Agreed. The quality of the experience has definitely gone down, and it seems to be worse. And to your point, you're paying more for it and you're getting less food for it. We go to this restaurant it's been our Friday thing for the last year or so. We go to this restaurant, get this wedge salad with chicken. I mean, it's a huge salad. It was a huge salad. It was a huge salad. A couple of months ago, we went and it was half of this. It was half the size of what we got before. The price hadn't changed, but it was half the size, And so it's like, yeah, it's yeah, it's not good right now. Definitely not good. So when
It's
people, coming through the pandemic, people would ask, well, is the experience better or worse? And I would say it's actually better because they've figured out this whole digital thing, right? And how to, be more personalized and more convenient and all of those kinds of things, instant gratification. But now we're coming into this whole other phase of it where it's just like, wow, we are falling fast and fast, really fast.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I've even noticed. I don't know if I should bring this up, but I've bought a bunch of stuff
Why
in the
not?
Apple Store recently, and
Yeah.
usually you go into the Apple Store, someone at least greets you when you come in, right? And if you're walking around, like sometimes they'll just say, "Hey, everybody's busy right now, but if you want to make an appointment."
Right.
We can have somebody there to help you in 20 minutes or somebody to help you there. And they do that thing where they walk around with the iPad and then they try and like let people know you need to go and help this person. But like I walked around with my kids for probably half an hour in the store because I just wanted to buy an iPad. I couldn't get
Yeah.
any help. I could
Wow.
like it was very weird compared to what I'm used to from the Apple store. I mean, it was packed, it was busy. So it's not like they weren't busy. It's just I'm
Right.
used to a certain level of experience. So instead, what I did is I went home and I ordered it online and then went back to pick it up.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Because I was going to be in the area the next day anyways. But it's just that whole really, is this what it's come to? Is I just like, the Amazon experience. That's why the Amazon experience is gaining so much momentum, is because
Oh
if that's
yeah.
the experience you're giving people in your store, why are
Yeah.
they going to order it from you?
Yeah.
What's the
Exactly.
game changer? What are you going to do to make it different? And people really need to think about this when they're running their business. If you're just
Agreed.
literally, I mean, don't get me wrong, Apple usually gives really good experience, but I mean, that was the second time that I've been to an Apple store, a different Apple store out here where I couldn't get any service, couldn't even get anyone to greet me, which I thought was really
Yeah.
weird. They're
Wow.
used to such a high level, of service. So
Yeah.
everybody's so impacted by what's happened. It just blows me away.
Yeah. Yeah. There's got to be a tipping point. There's got to be a turnaround point. Don't know where or when that's going to be, but yeah, it's got to happen soon because, like I said, we're falling fast, and it's not good. It is not good.
So, is there a book that really influenced your life? Maybe a book that inspired you to go and write a book?
Hmm. I don't, the things that inspired me over the years were less about the things that I read, and they were more about the people that I followed, people that I, admired, people that, did things that I thought. So for example, the woman in Australia had written, I want to say at that point when she had reached out to me, and we had already been in some conversations on social media. She'd already written, I think, 6 books at that point. And I was like, you go, girl. That's awesome. Like, and her books were amazing. So it's those kinds of people who inspire me, right? Because it's like, well, I want to do that too. And I can do that too. So, and then, reach out to the folks and talk to them and learn more about them and learn more about their journey. So that's really been, I wouldn't say that there's one book or another particular that has influenced me in any way over the course of my career.
Well, that's fine, but at least somebody motivated you to write the book and
Absolutely.
and get you going. I mean, because for me,
Absolutely.
I want to write a book. That's like, well, that was my goal for this year. I might push it off till next year though.
Yep.
So, but it's still one of the goals. I do want to do that. And I feel that writing the book establishes yourself, as an authority in the industry. It shows that you
Agreed.
take it serious. You're somebody who is passionate about what you do.
Definitely. Definitely. As a kid, my grandmother used to say, you should be a teacher. And I just poo-pooed that. I'm like, a teacher, nah, that's no fun. They don't make money. They all those things. And ultimately, I think that's what I've become, right? Again, going back to why I wrote the books and why I do what I do. There's a lot of new people in this field and a lot of people who need to be inspired to do things differently. And so that's really, for me, was the catalyst for writing those books, is to get information out there. And you know what, if they hire me as a result of what they read in the book, great. If not, I've put enough detail in there that you can figure some of these things out on your own, and hopefully do the right thing.
So So how does somebody get in touch with you? And also, maybe let us know a little bit more about your two books, because I know we both got deadlines, we both got things we got to do. So if you could definitely let us know about your books, that'd be awesome.
Of course, yeah. So the first book is called Customer Understanding: Three Ways to Put the Customer in Customer Experience and at the Heart of Your Business. And it is about those three ways that I talked about earlier, about listen, characterize, and empathize, and the feedback, data, personas, and journey mapping. And at the end of the book, I go into major detail about how to, journey map to me is a tool and a process. I go through in detail how to conduct the workshops for that process. And then the second book is Built to Win. And this is all about, deliberately designing a customer-centric culture that drives value for your business. And it talks about 10 foundational principles of a customer-centric organization. And I'll mention a couple of them. Culture is really the foundation. Leadership, commitment, and alignment are really important. We've got to put employees more first. We talked a lot about the employees and the employee experience today, and the impact on the customer experience. So that's huge. I do bring in, the first book a little bit into one of the principles. Customer understanding is the cornerstone of customer centricity, because customer centricity is all about bringing the voice of the customer into everything that we do in the organization, and using that voice to answer the questions, how will this impact the customer? How will it make her feel? What problems will it for her? So those are the two books. I'm really excited about, how well they've been received. So that's been pretty awesome. And you can find out more about me or contact me through either of my websites, cx-journey.com or AnnetteFranz.com. That's a new site that we just launched in conjunction with this second book. So
It's awesome. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it.
thanks for having me.
And I'm going to continue commenting on some of your LinkedIn posts.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.